All right, this is going to be the first video for Notes 88. We're going to start talking about trigonometry. And the very first thing I want to talk about with trigonometry is a 9-letter mnemonic device, SOHCAHTOA. You will hear me call this SOHCAHTOA. And what it is a way to help you remember 3 trig ratios. The first one is for sine, that's your S. The second one is for cosine, that's your C. And the third one is for tangent, that's the T. And these letters, OH, AH, and OA, stand for the opposite, the adjacent, and the hypotenuse. And those are sides of a triangle. So for sine, the OH here is for the opposite side over the hypotenuse. For cosine, the AH here is to help you remember adjacent over hypotenuse. And TOA, the OA, is to help you remember opposite over adjacent. I'm saying it wrong as I'm reading it. So, SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now, I'm going to do these notes out of order. I will come back to problem number 1 in a minute, but what I want to do first is actually do question 2 and question 3. So question number 2, I want you to find the sine, cosine, and tangent of angle C. So I'm going to make a little list here. Sine of angle C, I can't spell, so give me a second here. There's cosine angle C and tangent of angle C. All right, and each one of these is a ratio. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find angle C. All right, here is angle C. And I want to label the triangle with the opposite side, the adjacent side, and the hypotenuse. Now the easy one, I say the easy one, but the first one I would recommend you find is, of course, the hypotenuse. So find your right angle. It will point across the triangle to the hypotenuse. So 13 here is absolutely the hypotenuse. I oftentimes abbreviate that either H or HYP for hypotenuse. That's fine. So remember, it is opposite the right angle. If you happen to know all 3 sides, which in this case we do, the hypotenuse must be the largest side. Okay, so that's the first one. The second one I tend to label is the adjacent side. So this angle C right here is made up of 2 sides of the triangle. It's made up of the hypotenuse, and the other side is the adjacent side. Oftentimes we'll abbreviate that as either ADJ for adjacent or just A. And that leaves the third side. So this angle right here, if I go across or opposite the triangle, that is the opposite side. And oftentimes, again, whoops, I don't know what is going on there with me trying to write an E at the end. There we go. Oftentimes we'll abbreviate that as either OPP for opposite or just O for opposite. Okay. So the little mnemonic device is going to help me take this information, this hypotenuse, that opposite, and that adjacent side, and write out 3 trig ratios. So the mnemonic device for the first part is SOH. So sine is the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Okay, opposite over hypotenuse. So that's going to be the ratio 12 over 13. I cannot reduce that. That part's done. Then I've got C-A-H, so that's the cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. Okay, adjacent side is 5, hypotenuse is 13. So that ratio is 5 over 13. And then TOA, T-O-A, that's going to tell me the tangent is opposite over adjacent. So opposite over adjacent. So that's going to be 12 over 5. None of these fractions can be reduced, so those are my answers to problem number 2. Again, I'm out of order here. All right, so those ratios, they're done. Okay, I'm going to slide over to question number 3. Now this one's going to get a little bit weird, because in one case I'm asking for the cosine of angle B, and in one case I'm asking for the sine of angle A. Now I'm going to do something on the iPad on my video here that if you're in something like this and you can color code, amazing. If you're not in something like this, I might recommend actually redrawing the picture. So just be aware. So the first thing I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to make a little list here. So I want the cosine of angle B. And then separately, I'm going to figure out the sine of angle A. So let's start with cosine of angle B. So I'm going to go with pink for this one because I can. So angle B is down here. Okay, first thing I want to find is my hypotenuse. So right angle points at the hypotenuse. I'm going to go H for hypotenuse because I'm getting lazy. Shocking. So then angle B is made up of the hypotenuse and the adjacent side. So here's adjacent. And then, of course, that means that the 4 is the opposite side. Okay, so all of this stuff in pink is what I'm using for the cosine here. So the little mnemonic for cosine, CAH, so CAH, that means I need the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So that's going to be 3 over 5. So 3 over 5. Okay. I'm going to switch to green now. If you're in a color coding situation, this will be perfect. If you can't color code, what you might want to do is either redraw this triangle just off to the side here, so that way you can relabel it, because the information for angle A is not the same as the information for angle B. Okay, so I'm going to color code, and I'm going to change colors to my weird little green color here. So for angle A, I am going to label the triangle. Now, the hypotenuse is the hypotenuse. It's always the longest side. It's opposite the right angle. That's not going to matter if I'm talking about this acute angle or that one. All right, but for angle A, it is made up of 2 parts, the hypotenuse here and the adjacent side here. So adjacent, there, I'll add extra letters to it. All right, and then if this is angle A right here, if I go opposite, that's going to be this side over here. So there we go, opposite side. And then for sine here, the little mnemonic would be SOH. So I'm going to be looking for the opposite side over the hypotenuse. But this is, again, with respect to angle A and my green little letters here, or numbers here. So that's going to be 3 is the opposite, 5 is the hypotenuse. So that's going to be 3 over 5. And again, I can't reduce those, so that's just going to be my 2 answers here. And in this case, both of them are the exact same thing, because in angle B, the adjacent side is the same thing that angle A had as its opposite side. All right, so that's what creates these 2 equivalent fractions. I don't get too hung up on which is our equivalent or which not, or whatnot. I just use my little mnemonic device and label the picture. Okay, now these are just to find the ratios. That's question 2 and question 3. I'm going to back up to question number 1. There's 2 parts to it. And we're going to actually find some missing sides. We're going to apply the trigonometry ratios, but actually find some values. Now, when you have a triangle like this and you know both of your acute angles, just pick one of them. It won't matter if you pick 58. It won't matter if you pick 32. You just have to pick one of them. So I am going to pick 32 for no other reason than I felt like it. Legitimate reason, that's fine. So I'm going to label my triangle. So here's my right angle across the triangle. That is going to be the hypotenuse. 32 right here is the angle that I'm going to use as my reference angle. So 32 is made up of the hypotenuse side and the adjacent side. So ADJ here. And then I'm going to say obviously, but the only one left is this side over here marked as X. That is going to be my opposite side. All right. So those are the sides I know, right, based off of angle 32 here. And I want to figure out what X is and I want to figure out Y is. You cannot figure out both at the same time. Sorry, too bad, can't do it. So let's find X first. So X is the opposite side to 32. And we know the hypotenuse. So the little mnemonic device, what uses O and H, that is sine or so. So it's going to be the sine of 32 equals the opposite side, which is X, over the hypotenuse, which is 12. If you want to remind yourself, that was SOH. So to solve this loveliness, I am going to tell myself and remind myself that is over 1, because now I can cross multiply. So I'm going to do 1 times X, which is just X. The other cross is going to be 12 times the sine of 32, and this is absolutely going into a calculator. All right, so let me pop up a calculator here. Ta-da, calculator here. And your sine, cosine, and tangent buttons are right in the middle here above the 7, 8, 9. So go above one line, there's sine, cosine, and tangent. So let me kind of zoom in on that so I can see what I'm doing. Clear out what I have, so it doesn't matter. Now, one thing to be careful about is we're talking about degrees here. So in your mode, you need to make sure that degree is highlighted, okay? If this is not, arrow down, right? And then move over to the left or to the right is where you need to make sure degree is highlighted, hit enter, okay? And then to get out of this, hit second and mode again to quit out of it. Okay, so that's all good. So I'm going to put the 12 sine of 32, 12 sine of 32, close the parentheses. That is an x value. So x is equal to 6.36. I'm going to round off to 2 decimal places. Okay, so I'm going to kill that part. So now I know what x is. Love that. Wonderful. Great. I want to reset and now do what y is equal to. Okay, so for y, that's the adjacent side. And again, I'm going to go back to using what I know, which in this case, I know the hypotenuse is 12. So which trig function uses adjacent and hypotenuse? That is going to be the cosine of 32, which is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. The little mnemonic is ca, C-A-H. There's my h. So let's cross multiply. Okay, that's over 1. Let's see, crossing 1 times y is y. Crossing the other direction, you're going to 12 times the cosine of 32. I'm going to throw that in a calculator. Again, I keep popping the calculator up because there's no part of this that is going to be a non-calculator if I'm asking you to find specific angle measures. Now, I had just, I'm going to say destroyed, but I had closed out the calculator. It should still be in degree mode. It still is, unless I literally reset this calculator, it is not going to go out of degree mode. But it doesn't hurt to check. All right, so I got the 12 cosine of 32, which is what I wanted, 12 cosine of 32. All right, that is 10 point, let's see, if I round to 2 decimal places, 10.18. And that is what y is equal to. I'm going to lose the calculator for right now. I'll come back to it. All right, so there's the bits, parts, and pieces for question number 1. You were asked to find the missing sides, x and y. I found the missing sides, x and y. All right, make sure that both of your answers are identified so I know which one's which. All right. And I'm going to take a look then, and we'll finish out the video for this part on the second part of question number 1. In this case, I'm looking for 3 things. I'm looking for x, I'm looking for y, and I'm looking for angle z. I'm going to start with angle z here. So I know this is a 90-degree angle. I know this is a 50-degree angle. I know that's angle z. These 3 angles in any triangle have to add up to be 180 degrees. So if I take the 90-degree angle plus the 50-degree angle plus angle z, that all adds up to 180. So 90 plus 50 is 140, plus z is 180. I'm going to subtract 140 from both sides, and I'm going to get z is equal to 40 degrees. All right, so 40 degrees, that is absolutely one of my answers. So I'm going to go ahead and put a box around it already. Now, with this particular problem, it's not going to matter whether I work with the 50 or the 40. I'll go ahead and work with the 50 because it was the one I was given. I mean, there's no real other reason to it than that. So I'm going to label my triangle from the angle that I'm working with. So this angle is opposite to the 10. So opposite. The 90-degree angle here is going to point across to the hypotenuse. So there's the hypotenuse, and that leaves the adjacent side here, which, of course, the adjacent side and the hypotenuse are the one that make up the angle. Now, do you want to find x first or y first? It doesn't actually matter because you got to find both of them anyway. I'll go alphabetical order, and let's find x first. So in this case, I know the adjacent side, and I know the opposite side. So adjacent and opposite use the tangent of 50 is the opposite side over the adjacent side. The little mnemonic was TOA, T-O-A. And I'm actually going to move that up to here. There we go. That way it stays out of my way. So that was opposite over adjacent. And so if I now want to solve for x, go ahead and put this over 1, and I'm going to cross multiply. So 1 times 10 is 10. X times the tangent of 50 is x times the tangent of 50. I want to solve for x here. This is a little extra step than the last problem because in the last ones, x was already by itself. This one, not so much. Divide both sides by the tangent of 50. And this is absolutely a calculator problem. Whoops, I don't know what that just was. Make that go away. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, calculator back. Calculator back. So let's see. I needed to do tangent 10 divided by the tangent of 50. All right, and that gets me 8.39. I'm just rounding up to 2 decimal places. Okay, so I know what x is equal to here. And I'm going to reset, different equation this time, and now I want to solve for y. So hypotenuse here is what I'm looking for y. And I know the opposite side. So opposite and hypotenuse, well, that's going to use sine. So the sine of 50 is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse. The little mnemonic here would be SOH, S-O-H. So I'm going to put this over 1. I am going to cross multiply here. So let's see, 1 times 10 is 10. Y times the sine of 50 is exactly what I just said, y times the sine of 50. To get y by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 50. Sine of 50 there. And this is absolutely going in a calculator. These problems are not going to ever show up on a non-calculator part of a test. It's just, you're not going to get that. So let's see, 10 divided by the sine of 50. Make sure I have that the right places. I do. All right, so that's giving me a y value of 13.05. Okay, I'm going to close out that calculator. All right, there's all the bits, parts, and pieces for question number 1, part 2. This is also where I'm going to close this video. As always, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns, and I will do a part 2 for the bottom half of this note sheet. See you in the next one.